What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and there were a string of announcements and updates today to the status of things and how the NFL plans to proceed, etc., etc. And so there's a lot to talk about, and I want to go ahead and get straight into it, and so I'm going to do that. First, I want to discuss. Now, multiple sources are reporting this. Several of these things I'm getting from Yahoo Sports, but, ESPN and NFL.com and stuff, or NFL, whatever, all reported these things. So it's multiple sources, but let's get right into the first thing. And the first report is that the NFL will not be holding a supplemental draft in 2020. So normally there's a supplemental draft. There's not going to be, and for obvious reasons. But let's get into the details. The NFL will not hold the supplemental draft in 2020, according to Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. The NFL Management Council Executive Committee discussed the issue and decided not to hold the supplemental draft while the coronavirus pandemic was going on. Real quick, let's just note that we are inching closer and closer and closer to proving me completely right. And right regarding what? So right regarding what's going to happen to the 2020 season generally, right? So, I made some predictions, and, to narrow that down a little bit and to be a little bit more specific, I predicted that the season would either, get canceled outright altogether, or they would continue to push through the season. And if they do, it's going to be a massive disaster with outbreaks all over the place and people dying. Okay. Now the reality is it could actually end up being some combination of the two. Maybe they get a couple games in, have those outbreaks, and then finally decide to, shut things down. That's always possible as well. But having said that, those are the ultimate, or the broad spectrum, the broad stroke, predictions there. And I believe my prediction is that at some point the season is going to get shut down. I think it's going to be inevitable because this virus is out of control. They're not going to be able to stop it. Real quick, another side note, Dr. Fauci, the top infectious disease expert in the country, and, other experts agree, that the NFL is not going to be able to open. Now, in Dr. Fauci's words, he says that they would need to institute or implement some sort of bubble, right, in which they are completely, entirely isolated. But it's impossible. That means all the teams, their players, their coaching staff, support staff, right, refs, everybody that would be, needed for the seasons. And that's a lot of people, and that's super tough to do. But he used, like the Major League Soccer is trying to do that, basketball is trying to do that, and he used that as an example that the NFL would have to copy those layouts, those whatever. But there was a report I just saw earlier today as well that there was an outbreak within the MLS bubble. So Major League Soccer implemented some sort of bubble to keep everybody isolated, and now they're having a breakout. So anyway, but Dr. Fauci said they would have to do that, and we're inching closer and closer and closer to proving that, the season's just going to end up getting shut down outright. But my guess is that they are, I hope not, I hope they prove me wrong about this, but that they are so greedy that they are going to push it far enough to where they have at least a game or two, and then, with fans, and then cause outbreaks before they, fully shut it down. I hope that's not the case. I hope they come to the light sooner, but we'll have to see. Let's get into more of these details. From Tom Pelissero, the NFL just informed clubs it will not conduct a supplemental draft this year, per source. Under the CBA, the NFL may elect to hold a supplemental draft each year. The matter was discussed with the NFL Management Council Executive Committee, and in light of current conditions, the decision was not made to hold one. Now, let's note, though, they've canceled OTAs, they've canceled mini camps, they canceled the Hall of Fame game now. So canceling, right? Doing as much as they can virtually, etc., but that hasn't stopped it from hitting the NFL. There are definitely players that have it. It's going to continue to spread through the NFL ranks, right? So, I mean, we'll see what they do. The supplemental, and now this is just another one of the things that's, getting canceled, and rightfully so. We'll just have to see how strong their greed really is. Is it strong enough that they are going to, I mean, they're already risking people's lives. Nobody connected with the NFL has died yet from contracting the coronavirus, but many people have contracted it. And so, but the more that they open and the more they bring people together, especially in larger groups, well, the worse it's going to get. And then the more that they will guarantee that somebody will then die as a direct result of them opening up. Anyway, while it's uncommon for teams to find star players, the supplemental draft is typically held in July and allows players who were barred from the spring draft to latch on with an NFL team. While it's uncommon for teams to find star players in the supplemental draft, it's not impossible. Chris Carter, Josh Gordon, Bernie Kosar, and Terrell Pryor were selected in the supplemental draft. Carter is the only Hall of Fame player to be taken in the supplemental. If a team wants to select a player in the supplemental draft, that team must give up a future draft pick from the corresponding round in which they select a player. In Gordon's case, the Cleveland Browns selected him in the second round of the 2012. As a result, the Browns gave up a second round pick in the 2013 draft. If a team has no desire to draft a player, it can pass. It's unclear how the league will handle players who would have qualified for the supplemental draft in 2020. The league is likely working out that issue and will reveal its plans once the supplemental draft is officially canceled. I mean, honestly, I don't know, but there are certainly, and I'm sure that they care. I'm sure that they give a shit about that, but I mean, I don't know what you do, and frankly, as far as I'm concerned, there are definitely far bigger things than, just that. Obviously, that's why they canceled it to begin with, because that's an acknowledgement of that. Anyway, let's continue on, though, because we are now moving into the next bit of news that was released today, but obviously related to this same thing. So, the next report is NFL to cut preseason schedule in half because of COVID-19. So the NFL has taken its next scheduling step in response to the coronavirus. So to be fair to them, they did say that they have contingency plans and that they will adjust on the fly and so on and so forth. And this is good. But again, more stuff getting canceled. Although and I don't know if they get to this. We'll get to that in a second. But I did see other reports. I don't know if they mentioned it in this one. But the NFLPA hasn't exactly agreed to this quite yet, the canceling of 2 preseason games. But so far, it does look, there are multiple reports saying that this is what the NFL is pushing to do, cancel the 1st and 4th preseason games. After the cancellation of the Hall of Fame game between the Dallas Cowboys and Pittsburgh Steelers, the NFL plans to cut its four-week preseason in half, Pro Football Talk reports, as did many other places. Games scheduled for Week 1 and Week 4 will be canceled, according to the report. The NFL is expected to officially announce the decision on Thursday, according to the report. Meanwhile, NFL Network's Mike Garofalo reports that the NFLPA hasn't yet signed off on the idea, with some in the union leadership questioning whether the league should play any preseason games at all. Will NFL regular season go on? The nationwide spike in coronavirus cases has prompted concerns that plans to restart sports are in peril. So far, the NFL has given no indication that it plans to alter its regular season schedule. The league's stance since the pandemic took hold in the United States has been that the games will go on. Aside from plans to close off lower level seating in closer proximity to players to make way for digital advertising, the league has not publicly wavered on its plan to allow fans in the stands. By the way, I don't recall if I had mentioned that in a video, but that's one of their plans that they are supposedly using to help, that would supposedly help, stop the spread of this or minimize it. And that's cutting off. So obviously we all know how stands look in stadiums. The lowest 8 rows rows would be blocked off. Okay. Now they say it's to, help stop the spread, but if you still pack stadiums the rest of the way or even partially, it's going to happen regardless. So that those 8 rows are not going to do jack shit I mean, maybe it helps it to stop getting down to the field, but look, if it's going to get in the locker room somehow, it's going to get in the fucking locker room somehow. Again, none of these measures that they're going to take are going to fucking actually work, but whatever. Anyway, so they say that, right? It's to help spread, and look, I mean, to be fair, the more you, or the less people that you let in, the less it can spread. So I guess to some degree they are correct in that. But if they still pack the rest of the stadium, it's not going to stop, you know, the virus from getting in and then spreading and causing outbreaks, especially among the fans and blah, 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 blah. So it's ridiculous. But then, of course, because they are capitalist pigs and they're greedy, selfish assholes, of course, they're going to then make sure that they recoup that money that they would be losing by putting just tons of advertising. Of course. Well, because, you know, they'll only do something, right, that benefits the fans or the people, or, and this goes to a little bit to our, or a lot of it to our political leaders too. It ties in. They only do stuff for the people, the fans, whatever, the players, if they can profit somehow. And only that way. Only if they profit massively will they give us any kind of breadcrumbs at all, or any kind of concessions. Whatever. It's disgusting. Meanwhile, several states that moved to reopen during the pandemic have since pulled back those efforts as coronavirus cases have spiked across the South and West. Those states include Florida, Texas, California, and Arizona, which are home to 9 of the NFL's 32 teams. MLB and NBA are both scheduled to return prior to the scheduled start of the NFL season September 10th, and will provide somewhat of a blueprint on how and if the NFL can actually return safely. But I just mentioned that the MLS blueprint is failing already because they're having an outbreak within their bubble. So, and if it's within a bubble, I mean, if you get an outbreak within a sealed off, confined area packed with a bunch of people, well, I mean, it's gonna spread like wildfire. And that's the thing is okay, so theoretically this bubble idea could maybe work. There's a ton of moving parts that make it impossible, but including if the virus gets in there at all from one person, it's going to spread like fucking wildfire. So, which, you know, the reports I saw, the number of cases haven't made it, you know, it's not wildfire-y yet, right? The only report that I saw about it where there were 6 cases within the bubble. But if it's within a bubble, my guess is that it's going, and if they really are, you know, if they really were keeping everything closed off in one area with all those people, etc., my guess is that those numbers are going to be significantly higher by the time it's all said and done. But anyway, even then, the nature of football and the close contact required by the sport present unique challenges in the face of COVID-19. And that is definitely true. But I mean, it doesn't need to be a contact sport for those, you know, risks to be there. Anyway, so let's continue on though, because, you know, there's definitely more news regarding this, and it continues to get even more disgusting and despicable. So what's the next bit of information that we have here? So the next report says and tells us that the NFL could ask fans to sign coronavirus waiver if they want to attend games. Okay, so before I get into the actual details, I want to mention that, you know, somebody got up into my comment section the other day or whatever, responding to one of my videos in regard to this stuff, saying something along the lines of turning what I said, you know, me presenting the facts about the situation and how in my analysis that this is going to be a massive disaster, and started saying to me that I'm trying to blame other people for the decisions that I'm going to make, which doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. First of all, I don't live in Florida, so it's not like I would be going to any of those games. But even if there were games out here, which is unlikely, I wouldn't go to them anyway because I'm not a moron, and I'm not going to pack into a stadium in which I can increase my likelihood. But I've never talked about well, I wouldn't say never, I'm sure I mentioned it, but that's not the point. It's completely irrelevant to what I'm talking about. Because it should be clear that I'm not going to make that decision. I'm trying to prevent other people from making a potentially fatal decision themselves. Okay, but he's like, this person was like, oh, well, you know, just let people make the... Sure, people can decide whatever that they want, but it could kill you. If you're all right with that, just to go watch a game when the season will likely be shut down anyway, okay, well, that's on you. But here's the thing. They might have you sign a waiver. Why? Because they acknowledge, not just that as they've done publicly by saying that they expect cases, but they acknowledge that you could end up in the hospital or you could die. And they don't want you or your family to sue them on the back end if that's the case. They just want to be able to make sure that they can continue to make the profits off of you, take your money by selling you tickets and merchandise and, concessions at the stadium, parking, you got to pay for that. They're going to be happy to take all of your money all the way, right? Bring you in so you can watch this game. You get sick and go to the hospital and get fucking outrageous bills or die. And they want to make sure that they cannot be sued in the aftermath. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. But there will still be people, of course, in the comments and so on and so forth that defend that and be like, yeah, this is America, baby. We have the freedom to go die for our sports and for our capitalism and for the rich and the wealthy. Yeah. Okay, if that's what you want to do, go for it. I think you're an idiot. I think you're a fucking moron. But okay, if that's what you think, pride in America is all about, if that's what you think American freedom's all about, well, you're a fucking idiot. Go ahead. And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, the world will be a lot better off without morons like that. So I know that's going to be super offensive to people, but guess what? I don't really give a shit. All right. Anyway, let's get into these details, though. The NFL is trying to figure out ways to mitigate the risk of a lawsuit if fans are allowed back into stadiums. In order to do that, the league is considering asking fans to sign a COVID-19 liability waiver if they want to attend games, according to Daniel Kaplan of The Athletic. Okay. So again, I'm sorry. Just to frame that a little bit differently. So in other words, right? The NFL acknowledges that. They also acknowledge that there are people that are gullible enough and stupid enough to do it. And so that's why, I don't, to some degree, I certainly would hold people accountable for making that dumb choice. Be like, look, well, you made the choice. But at the same time, especially in places like Florida, I mean, the news that's being put out, the mainstream, Ron DeSantis is a fucking clown. What they are getting from their leadership is not right. And so a lot of people are, duped into it. So I don't, the main responsibility is certainly not on the fans or any of that. However, and obviously each individual person's level of culpability would be different depending on their level of knowledge of the events and their decision to do it regardless, etc., etc. But regardless of all of that, none of that would even be a thing or a topic or a decision to be made if the NFL as a whole and the ownership said, you know what, this is way too risky, people could die from this, we're going to shut down. Don't even give them the choice. If people don't have the choice to make, if they don't have the opportunity to be stupid, then they can't be held accountable for being stupid. So the responsibility falls squarely on the NFL as a whole, as a corporation, and each one of the owners, the billionaire owners that care far more about their profits than people's lives. Okay. So let's continue on. That proposal is expected to be sent to teams in early July as the league considers its options for reopening amid the coronavirus pandemic. The waiver could be done electronically, according to Kaplan's report. Now, I have no doubt that the owners are going to agree to this. While the NFL is moving ahead with training camp, and there's no NFLPA to get in the way of this either, because that's the NFL Players Association, right? As far as I know, there's no union or community group or government group or whatever, any kind of group that would be there besides just like lawyers, or whatever, that would be there to stop this, right? Or to get in and advocate for the fans. There's no group, that I'm aware of. Maybe there is. And if there is, they should, because this is ridiculous. Anyway. While the NFL is moving ahead with training camps as planned, the issue of attendance hasn't been determined yet. The NFL has indicated it wants to proceed with fans in the stands. The league EVP Troy Vincent said the NFL will be flexible based on recommendations from health officials. At least one team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, made only 50% of their tickets available in cases fans are required to follow social distancing rules. Let's pause right there for a second. That's the only team out of 32. So that's the first point, okay? The second point is that's only half capacity. Even at half capacity, you still stand an excellent chance of mass breakouts. Okay. The issue of safety and best practices the point is, like, if those are the fucking things that the measures that they're going to implement to stop it, it's foolish. It's a fool's errand. And either they don't know that and are complete morons, or they don't give a fuck and only care about their profits. Those are the only two options. The issue of safety and best practices regarding fans may come down to each individual team. That's absurd. Absurd. One frustrated AFC executive told Yahoo Sports, Charles Robinson, in June, the question about fans is going to end up being a choice left up to teams. Actually, I should say pretty much all the questions on the fan attendance. One frustrated AFC executive said this week, we haven't heard anything from the league. Hopefully that changes Thursday because we have a lot of questions. Yeah, and I can understand being frustrated about that, just like Jim Harbaugh is about all this, because the policies and the precautions that they're trying to implement are not going to do it. Not even close. It's not even going to come close. Mark my words. Watch. Fans hoping to attend games shouldn't expect to sit in the front row. The NFL will block off the front rows at each stadium for advertisements, according to Robinson. That will allow the league to make more money if stadiums can only be at partial capacity. Again, all they care about is their money. While nothing has been finalized yet, talk of a waiver suggests the NFL will greenlight fans attending games depending on local and state guidelines. If that happens, it sounds like fans will have to acknowledge the risk they are taking by going to games during a pandemic before they can attend. And so it's super disgusting, man, because there could be tons of innocent people that just honestly don't know the real information because they live someplace like Florida or Texas or whatever, where, their governors are lying to them, just flat out lying to them, suppressing the information, hiding the real data, not telling people the truth. And then, so they think, this thing's not a big deal. I'll sign this waiver so I can go watch this game. And then they could get sick and have massive medical bills or die. And it wouldn't be their fault. But legally it would be because they signed that waiver. And it's disgusting. It's trapping people into possibly dying for the profits of the NFL and the NFL owners. And it's absolutely fucking gross and it's sick. Anyway, but I mean, look, that's the world that we live in, bro. So, it is what it is. All right, and real quick, just for fun, I want to throw this in there because it obviously is super relevant to that very last story that we did and talked about. This dude is a clown. I comment every once in a great while, or not even comment. I, do a quote tweet. I quote tweet him because he says something moronic that I want to not necessarily respond to directly, but respond to, right? Like, I want to put my thoughts out on that, thread of his or whatever it is, that mental thread of his. And he's not the only one, of course. I do it to people. But then, like, it's so funny to me because then he always responds, and we'll get to this in a second. Oh, I just love living rent-free in your head. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? I don't think about you at all, except for the one random time every so often that I see in my Bleacher Report thread that you said something absolutely fucking stupid. Whatever, he's a moron. But clearly, I'm living rent-free in his head because he actually gives a shit about it. But I do want to read this to you because not only is it just absolutely moronic, but it shows, the level of disgust of people in this world, or how disgusting people in this world are. So this is his tweet, and the person is Matt Infante. I'm sure a lot of you probably have actually heard of him. His Twitter handle is @MattyInfante. So it is quite refreshing to continually hear that Tom Garfunkel and the Miami Dolphins remain confident that not only will there be a 2020 NFL season, but that there could be fans in the stands. The latest, Garfinkel addressing the Miami Chamber of Commerce, and then he put a link to, you know, a video or whatever the fuck, right? So I responded to that, and I said, quote tweeting him, give me a second here, and I said, quite refreshing to hear greedy people push for profits at the expense of human life? Question mark. Well, I always thought he was just a moron. Now he's a despicable moron. That was my response, and I haven't even looked at it, but I saw the alert that says something along the lines of, I love living in your head rent-free, whatever. He's a fucking moron, and especially even more so if he thinks that I give a fuck about anything he thinks. But I tweeted that simply to show and to prove that not only, because it's not just the owners though, right? Because it goes to how, you know, I was saying, like, Ron DeSantis and these leaders, how do you think that they get this misinformation and shit out there? It's the media. They have people in the media that help them push these bullshit fucking narratives, right? So you have this fucking cunt rag, fucking Matt Infante, who thinks he's some fucking cool guy and thinks he has some sort of fucking psychological effect on me, which is a joke. But anyway, like, he goes out there and he pushes these absolutely absurd, ridiculous things. So he was a moron for, you know, before, for a lot of the different things that he said. I don't know. I can't even think of anything off. I'm trying to fish my brain for some other dumb thing he said. But honestly, I can't remember anything because he's that insignificant. But he's not just a moron now, but he's despicable because he wants to see the NFL open and he wants to see them fill stands just so that way the NFL can make profits. Because, I mean, sure, you know, I'm sure he's a fan and wants to watch games too. I would love to watch games as well, but I don't want to watch games if people's lives are going to be at risk. And that's absolutely going to be the case. But clearly, either he's just a moron and doesn't understand the true gravity of the situation. So best case scenario for him, he's just flat out a moron all around. Or he's a despicable moron because he knows the facts and he knows the truth and just doesn't care. And it's people like him in the media that help perpetuate these bullshit narratives by leadership. Not just political leadership like Ron DeSantis in Florida, the governor, but also leadership like the NFL and the owners who just want to make sure that they can make as much money off of us as humanly possible with as little risk. And there's little risk to them. In other words, if people get sick and die, they don't want to be held responsible for that, even though they absolutely should be, not just financially, but criminally. But then they want to also make sure that you're taking risks with your lives to ensure that they get those profits to begin with. So it's all just a fucking sick joke, or at least I wish it was. Something that I could wake up from and, you know, the world be fucking better. But it's not, because of fucking douche cunts like him and the NFL and, you know, all of these greedy fucking rich, wealthy, elite fuckbags that think it's okay to just fucking shit on the average person all the fucking time. And, you know, they're just gonna fucking constantly get away with it. Anyway, so that's how I'm gonna end it. That is my video. There was a lot to absorb there, a lot to update you guys on, but that's where we stand right now. So, you know, preseason, just a quick recap, preseason is going to get shortened by a couple games, it looks like. You know, they are going to likely have people sign waivers, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, you get it. And I've already forgotten some of the things I've talked about. So I'm definitely going to get up out of here and move on to my next thing for the day. So with that, I hope you guys appreciate my perspective, and if you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts, share my channel and videos with your friends and family, leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section, and of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro, and with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.